Good morning. I'm Mickey Thompson, and thank you for joining us on today's Ask the Mayor program. We're on location at the corner of Campbellton Street and Highway 78, and we are here today. We have a ribbon cutting, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Southern Quilt Trail. We have the first one. It's behind me on the side of the President's Building. Was quilted by Ms. Edna Bearden many years ago, and we're going to talk a little bit today about that quilt and the ladies who made these quilts so many years ago. Well, good morning and welcome to the ribbon cutting this morning. We are in downtown Douglasville at the corner of Campbellton Street and Highway 78 for a very special occasion. This is the first time this has ever happened in the city of Douglasville. We are here, and you can probably see it on the background. There is a painting of a quilt. And during the program today, you're going to hear a little bit about how this quilt and this painting that's on the wall of the President's Building came about. We are here to welcome you to the first, and this is really the first in Douglas County, the Southern Quilt Trail unveiling. Now there are 28 of these around the western part of the metro Atlanta area, but this is the first one in Douglasville, and we certainly welcome you here today. You're going to hear, as I said earlier, a little bit more about how this came to pass. And just to start off a little bit, the Seven Springs Historical Society actually brought the Southern Quilt Trail to Powder Springs in 2007. So it's been a few years ago since the first one started, and we are certainly glad that it's here in Douglasville. You're going to hear about the wonderful lady that quilted this quilt. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, my mother was a quilter also. I can remember years and years ago, she was a member of a club called the Busy Bee Club. And my daughter, who is 32 now, I guess, was a little bitty thing, and she still remembers the good times that they had together when this group of ladies were together quilting. But to join me today is Pat Smith. Thank you, Pat. And of course, the Downtown Development Authority it was very instrumental in what we are doing today. So, Pat, would you like to tell us a little bit how we got to where we are today?
I would, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for being here. Probably, I guess, a couple of years ago now, I was in Powder Springs with my mom, and we kept seeing all these quilts on the sides of the buildings. And I'm thinking, why don't we have one of those in downtown Douglasville? So I went into the little store there, and I talked to Gloria Hildebrandt, who is with the Southern Quilt Trail, and she said, I've been trying to get someone in Douglasville interested in doing this for a long time. And I said, well, you've just now found someone. So we sent out word. I came back to the DDA and got approval to have this as one of our promotions projects, and we took it to the promotions committee. We sent out word that we were looking for quilts that were made by people in Douglasville, and we also wanted a story behind that quilt. Mm-hmm. And frankly, when Mrs. Bearden's quilt came back to us, we said, oh my goodness, this is it. Mrs. Bearden did this Dresden plate quilt. This is a replica. You don't actually paint the true quilt on the board. It's a replica of the actual pattern. And this is the Dresden plate pattern, which is what she did in the 1970s. And at the time of her death in 2006, the actual quilt itself in the country custom, the old-timey country custom of draping a quilt over a quilter's coffin, that particular quilt was draped over her coffin for her funeral. And when we read that story, we just said, oh gosh, this is it. So we're very excited. We have all of the Bearden children here today. We also have Mrs. Bearden's sister, Ms. Holt, here. She is here. And we're very, very excited that they could attend today. And we thank them so much for letting us put this up on the building.
Absolutely, and I understand we have someone that's going to, from the family, that's going to tell us a little bit more about the quilt.
Well, I would like to have either Noreen or Kathy, if you don't mind. One of the daughters. We have just a couple of little, now Ms. Bearden is, I think you told me, she never like bought material. She always used scraps.
No, she always used scraps from sewing projects, and then when we started sewing, we gave her our scraps because we didn't quilt at the time.
Right.
And so, no, I don't think she ever, maybe the lining a time or two because you have to have a big piece of fabric for that. But she quilted for over 70 years, and she started when she was 19. And she had to give it up a year or two before she died, but she quilted right, she did. And she quilted a lot of quilts for her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Never sold a quilt.
No, it just kept everybody warm.
Right. Yeah. And she had the quilt frame that suspended from the ceiling on hooks. And then it used to be that you had to roll it up at night so you could use the room for its original purpose. But she had a room, because we were all gone, that she kept it in the same place. And she would go in there and quilt, and she would quilt for hours and hours, and I'd go out there and she'd say, well, I guess I better fix myself something to eat. But you know, it's kind of nice not to have to quit and fix supper for somebody else. And I said, well, just keep on quilting then.
If that's what made her happy.
That's right, and she really enjoyed it.
Now, I understand, Noreen, you have the quilt now, and you actually sleep under.
She gave it to me several years ago, and I actually use it for cover all the time.
Okay. So, and the quilt is on display inside. We're going to have a little reception after the presentation here and the ribbon cutting. Mr. Mayor, did you have anything else you needed to add?
Well, what we want to do is certainly invite those who are looking at the program today to stop by and take a look at this painting that's on the side of the building that looks just like the quilt. And it's interesting when you were talking earlier about rolling up the quilt. I remember my grandmother lived in a very similar situation. She had hers in their bedroom, which was also their living room and everything else, and they had to roll it up at night, and I can still remember seeing those things in that area. So, you know, it's one.
It takes up the whole room.
It really does.
I mean, it really does.
Yeah. So it's so wonderful that we can remember the good times of the past and the things that our forefathers and foremothers did actually to get us where we are today. And, you know, you were talking about never throwing anything away. My grandmother and my mother never threw anything away. I can remember some of the quilts that we have today was actually clothes that I wore. And they would cut up shirts and things like that. And I can remember some of those things. But really, I want to invite everyone to come by. That would be the only thing. And it's certainly an honor to join the family, the Bearden family, here today for this very, very fitting tribute to her and all of the people in the past who have helped build our community and our country and this city of Douglasville what it is today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of big thank yous. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the Promotions Committee who worked very hard with me on this project. Rhonda Silvis, who cannot be here today, but her way with words is just amazing. We would give her a couple of little notes and she would take it and run with it, and it would be wonderful. Tamra Manny, who is our salesperson extraordinaire and talked Lowe's into giving us the boards and donating all of those so we didn't have to pay for those. Brooch Winsley, who is our quilter extraordinaire. Where did she go? Brooch is here somewhere, I know. And then Stephanie Aylworth, our Main Street manager, who worked with us on this whole project all the way through and sort of guided us. Of course, the DDA board in support of the project, and Ace Hardware, who also donated. We talked them into donating the paint for us, so we didn't have to. This is a very inexpensive project, Mr. Mayor.
Now, Pat, who actually painted this?
Well, that's what I'm coming to next.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit ahead of you.
That's okay. That's okay. And last but not least, I would like to thank my daughter, Sarah, who helped us because we were in there trying to paint this thing. And Sarah is an artist in Atlanta. And we looked like a bunch of kindergartners painting this thing. We were in there one Saturday morning. It was me, Stephanie, and members of the committee, and about an hour later, we said, this is way above anything we need to be doing. And I called my daughter and I said, help, your mom needs some help. And so she, the first thing she asked me was, what kind of medium are you using? And I said, a medium what? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, what is it, a medium what? And she said, yeah, you do need some help, Mom. So out of the goodness of her heart, she came out and spent a whole day and painted the quilt on the boards for us. And it looks phenomenal. So thank you, Sarah. We appreciate that. And now I'd like to just, as one last thing, I would like to introduce Gloria Hildebrandt, who is with the Southern Quilt Trail. And then we will do an official ribbon cutting. Gloria?
Okay.
It's on, yeah.
You don't know how excited I am to be here in Douglasville. When we started the Quilt Trail, we said, oh, we've got to go to Douglas County. And we've tried for years, and then all of a sudden Pat walks in my shop, so we were very excited to do that. I'd like to go back to the mayor was talking about his mother and the quilts. I also have a quilt top that my mother had pieced, but she never had it quilted. And I have my grandmother's quilting frame. Hers is not the one that hangs from the ceiling. It has the feet on it that stands up. Well, I have that quilt top on that. My sister and I was sitting, I say, oh, look, this was my first maternity top. Oh, look, this scrap was the dress I wore to my high school party. And my sister starts the same thing. This is the dress Mother made me for first grade of school. So it's very exciting to have that, and we're so excited about this. The Southern Quilt Trail started in Powder Springs. Right now, we have 18 hanging in Powder Springs. Throughout the Southern Quilt Trail, we have quilts in Haralson County, we have them in Carroll County, we have them in Heard County, and we have them in Paulding County. And Mayor, this makes the 40th quilt.
The 40th, okay.
So this is the 40th quilt.
Statistics are a little bit behind.
Right. So we're very excited, and of course my husband's from Douglas County, so it's just good to be back here in Douglas County with the quilts, and we're just extremely excited about this. And we do appreciate Pat and all of her hard work.
Thank you, Gloria. We appreciate you being here. At this time, we'd like to do our ribbon cutting, our official ribbon cutting.
Ready? 1,